This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com with another UFO news update. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in relation to unidentified aerial phenomenon this week. A former Israeli space security chief who is a respected professor and retired general is saying that Earthlings have been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation. According to NBC News, the National Post, many UK news sources, they're all reporting on this guy. And this is not the first I've heard of a galactic federation. Former Canadian Minister of Defense, and he's also, at one point, I believe he was the backup as the Prime Minister, Paul Hellyer, who I personally interviewed, also talked about the existence of a galactic federation. I'm just reporting on this. The unidentified flying objects, according to this former Israeli security chief, has asked not to publish that they're here, apparently, as they think humanity is not ready. This former head of Israel's defense ministry, space directorate, Haim Eshed, told this to Israel's newspaper on Friday, and it has since been translated into English by the Jerusalem Post. And it came out today. And it's all over the news today because this is a credible person. He says that aliens are equally curious about humanity, and we're seeking to understand the fabric of the universe. He says cooperation agreements have been signed between the various species that have been in contact with Earth, including, and he alleges that there's an underground base on Mars, according to him, between American astronauts and various alien representatives. We do know that Elon Musk, who is the person in charge of attempting to colonize Mars, did make some comments in the summer where he said aliens are the ones that actually created the pyramids. And oh boy, was the Egyptian tourism office mad at Musk over those comments. They were laughing at him as if he was an idiot, but this guy is one of the smartest people on earth, Elon Musk. But back to this Eshed Israeli individual. He said that President Donald Trump was aware of the extraterrestrials' existence and had been, quote, on the verge of revealing, end quote, information, but was asked not to prevent mass hysteria. And apparently, according to this person, he believed it was the aliens that asked not to be revealed by President Trump. He said, according to him, quote, they have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we will understand in general what space and spaceships are, end quote. He said, referring to this alleged galactic federation. The White House and Israeli officials did not respond to NBC's request for comment, and a spokesperson for the Pentagon also declined comment, but the Pentagon has admitted that UFOs exist. They're not saying that they're alien, but they're saying that these UFOs display technologies that we don't understand, and we don't know what they are. That's what the Pentagon is saying. That's what they're admitting at this point. A spokesperson for NASA says one of NASA's key goals was the search of life in the universe, but they have yet to find signs of extraterrestrial life. Speaking of former Canadian Defense Minister Paul Hellyer, and I put this clip in the description and pinned it to the top of the comments, he said NASA is full of shit when they say that they haven't found signs of extraterrestrials. That's what Paul Hellyer, former Canadian Minister of Defense, says about NASA. He calls them liars. This Israeli individual, Ished, who oversaw the launch of numerous Israeli satellites into space, said he is only speaking out now because attitudes are changing and people are more receptive. He says 5 years ago, they would have put him in a mental hospital. Today, people are talking differently, and he says he has nothing to lose. He already has his degrees and awards and is respected by universities on an international level. NBC brings up that President Trump said this spring that space is going to be the future, both in terms of defense and offense. He was also quoted as saying, "We are not the leaders on space." So he has also unveiled a newly created military space branch, and President Trump, has also stated he's seen the Roswell 1947 alleged alien crash files, and he said, quote, "I found them interesting." This Israeli former General Ished has spawned a lot of jokes, people making fun of him. Despite him being a general and a very credible person, maybe he is getting older. I believe he's somewhere around 87. But he is a credible person, and he's far from an idiot. So I wouldn't make fun of him. I'm no expert on any galactic federation, and he'd be privy to a lot more information than me. The article also brings up Nick Pope, a guy who I spoke to in depth on Monday, but due to technical issues, we're going to have to redo the interview. And it's going to have to be an audio format because where he lives in Arizona, it's not good enough reception for video interviews. But I did speak to him extensively on Monday, and he is quoted in here saying that he finds Ished's remarks extraordinary. And Nick Pope says this is either some sort of practical joke or publicity stunt to help sell his books. Perhaps something has been lost in translation or someone in the know is breaking ranks, end quote, from Nick Pope. And Nick Pope also went on to say, there's missing pieces of the puzzle here. And for those that don't know who Nick Pope is, who commented on this, he is the former person in charge of the British military's UFO reports. They would send UFO reports for Nick Pope to investigate. He worked for the British government. He doesn't anymore. As I said, I spoke to him extensively on Monday. He did reveal a lot of information to me, a lot of stuff I didn't even know yet. And he didn't talk about this kind of stuff. So I'm not saying, I don't know if it's credible or not, this report from this Israeli guy. He is a credible person, but I'm not very familiar with this information. I haven't researched it. The only thing I've heard before is Paul Hellyer mentioned this Galactic Federation in my interview with Paul Hellyer. That's the first I've heard of any Galactic Federation. So I will do more research into this stuff. Constipated in City says he knows Nick Pope quite well. Very good guy. And as I said, we're going to try and redo that interview later this week. I wanted to cry that day. I was so upset that we had technical issues with that interview because it was an amazing interview. Matt R. says he feels like Trump could spill the beans on a lot of stuff once he's outed. Depends on the confidentiality oaths that he signed, if there would be issues related to criminal charges, if he disclosed stuff he's not allowed to, but we'll see. Steven is making a joke about the Galactic Federation. As I said, I report on UFO news on this channel. I'm very interested in this stuff, as you can see by the unidentified flying object behind me. Neil says, how have I never heard of the Galactic Federation? They have assumed control of Canada. Lots of jokes. I mean, this guy is credible. That's all I know about him is let's look at how credible he is, okay? He is the former Israeli space security chief. He was also head of Israel's Defense Space Directorate, and he's a former general. He holds numerous degrees and awards. So he's a credible person. He's in his 80s. He doesn't have much to lose. He's accomplished all he's going to accomplish in life. One thing Nick Pope did tell me is there are people in various governments that want more information out. And they're not allowed to let it out. So some of this stuff is being purposely leaked. As I said, I'll research this more. I'm just reporting the news, and I'll certainly report on the wrestling news for all of the wrestling fans out there later tonight. So have a good evening, everyone.